So today's topic, leading with grace in uncertain times. So this topic came up when I tuned in to the higher collective energy. So notice I said the word higher because there's a lot of different energies in the collective, right? So I'm choosing to tune into the most highest connected intelligence. And then I also, it's just something that is part of my purpose and calling, is to guide visionaries and leaders into creating a more united planet. So when I connect into both of those energies, last week I got that the topic for today is really about grace. So leading with grace. We know that we're in uncertain times. That's getting proved every month almost with something else that's shaking up the system and the structures in which we live in. So I want to ask a question to you all, and it would be awesome if you could write in the chat your answer. What does grace mean to you? When I say the word grace, what comes up? So what does grace feel like? What does grace look like? What does grace mean to you? Kindness, humility, calm, peace, says Paula. So as I wait for you all to write down what grace means to you, I'm going to tell you what it feels like to me. It feels like a feminine quality. So we've obviously got the masculine qualities and the feminine qualities. Ali says the power of kindness, definitely. Gentleness and wise, says Laurie, so definitely the feminine quality of gentleness. And Mark says flow from source, goddess, definitely. So to me, when I feel, because I've been more focused on feeling these days, so feeling grace, to me it's associated with effortlessness, flow, radiance, beauty, patience. So definite feminine qualities. And what I want to mention about when I say feminine is obviously the masculine and the feminine are both important. So when they're balanced, that's when they're really able to coexist. And if you're familiar with yoga, in a lot of the Vedas, when they're mentioning the different aspects of God through the forms of deities, there's always a counterpart, like a balanced counterpart. So every god has a goddess. So I feel that it's the time that we're going through right now is really about balancing the masculine and the feminine, because there's a lot of masculine energy. So by bringing in more of the feminine qualities, that's how I believe we're going to achieve that unity and that balance. So today's topic is definitely focused more on connecting to and acting from more of that feminine aspect, keeping in mind that it doesn't matter whether you're a man or a woman, we all have both inside of us and can tap into both. So James says, connecting to your higher self, feeling part of something bigger than yourself. Definitely. So, and Chris is saying ease, flow, forgiveness. It's an interesting one, forgiveness, interconnection, divine source, vibration. So it sounds like we're all feeling very similar things when we tune into what grace means. So I don't need to explain it to you too much here. I've also said, so when I visualize somebody that is acting with grace, right? Like if you want to describe someone that's graceful, sorry, I just got to set the timer here. You can also say that when you just picture them, like you can feel them and you can see how they're acting, and all of those qualities that we just brought up are definitely how you would view or feel somebody that's graceful. And I also said that they have a constant connection to source. So what I'm saying there is that it's not we can learn these qualities like kindness, effortlessness, love, patience, grace. we already are that. So it's all about tuning into that. And how we tune into that is through having a constant connection to source. You can also say to God, to your higher self, to your God self, whatever words you want to use. So I want to talk about the other side of this topic, uncertain times. So we're in uncertain times. What happens during uncertain times to people? How do people feel or act in uncertain times? I'd love to hear from you. So this could be what you're feeling during these times in some moments or in a lot of moments, how you're observing other people acting right now. Fear, definitely. Yep. So when things are not certain, it's easy to lock into the fear. Anything else? So I'm going to say, just while I'm waiting for the comments, that during uncertainty, the mind always feels like it needs to want to be in control and be comfortable. So it feels like people are trying to lock into some form of control just so they can feel safe when things are uncertain. And that causes people to react, panic, scarcity becomes a prevalent quality, and also fear of the future. So when things are uncertain, you're always grasping on, okay, what's going to happen in the future? What's going to happen in the future? What else? Who else would like to share what in the comments? What happens during uncertain times to people? The opposite of grace. Exactly. I was actually going to mention that next. You can choose to react with survival mode or see it as an opportunity to evolve. So definitely what we've been presenting in visionary sessions is us tuning into the ability to evolve and the bright side of this uncertainty. But often, if people are not in that trajectory, or that's not their main choice in life, then they really lock into some of the qualities and the actions that I just mentioned. So that's why this topic is really important, because if uncertain times cause a lot of fear and reaction and scarcity, and grace is the complete opposite, how do you act in the complete opposite way? So that's what this talk is about. How do you not get thrown into some of the emotions and reactions that uncertain times bring for people? Like, how do you not get caught up in that? And then not only that, but how do you actually act in the complete opposite way, which you could describe as grace? So I'm going to give you a few tips, a few ways that I've been doing it myself, some ways that I've tuned in that's important for you to all know today. So I'm going to say that the 3 ways to really lead with grace is to, number 1, slow down. Number 2, listen. And number 3, align to the natural rhythm. So I'm going to talk about all of those. So slowing down. So when leading with grace, there's no hurry. First of all, because you're not in that scarcity energy, right? So when you're in full trust and divine guidance, hurry doesn't exist. That concept isn't there. And I also learned from the minds that when you're present in time, that hurry doesn't exist either, because you're not resisting or trying to control time, you're within time. That's what the gift of presence brings. And when you slow down, which is the beginning of being connected with grace, you also know when to act. So you act when you need to act, you stop when you need to stop. So you actually take the right actions, because you're not reacting, you're not doing things out of fear or out of scarcity. You've slowed down, you've given yourself spaciousness. So to give you an example, I think with grace, what I normally think of is athletes, cats, usually naturally have grace. So I want to talk more about the athlete part, because that's my background. I'm going to mention gymnastics, which is not my background, that's my dad's. Some of the moves that they do they're not that slow, really, right? However, for them to actually achieve what they're doing, they would have had to break everything down, and they started slow. So move by move, turn by turn, hand position by hand position. So everything that they did happened slowly in a step-by-step way for them to actually present the way that they do, where they're just moving perfectly in harmony, every muscle, every part of them, their mind connected to their body. So I also want to talk about running because my background's a triathlete. So I was running fast, however, not gracefully. So you know how you see some people running and they're like clumping and you're kind of walking and you're like, what's that noise? And someone clumps past you and they're running. I was one of those people, and also puffing really hard. So you can imagine that people would turn around when I ran past them. And I wanted to be more graceful with my running. So what I needed to do was, first of all, I got a coach and I did track training. So I had to slow down. I had to get rid of my high speed that I had for years and just go, we're not focused on speed. And every week that we went there, the coach would give us a different focus. So that whole session, an hour and a half, it was all about the arms, focusing on the arms. Another session was where you're looking, so looking on the horizon. Another one was focusing on the knees. So my point is that we were not trying to do 7 things to build grace in one moment. We were focused on one thing at a time. And by having that focus and that slowing down, we were able to then put it all together at the end and create a graceful running style. So now I'm going to talk about listening, because this is one of my favorites. So the fastest way to embody grace is through listening and being present. Okay, so when you slow down, you can actually listen. So see how that's the next step, right? It's hard to listen when you're just, frantic and doing this and busy. And so first you slow down, then you listen. So listening to nature, listening to your inner guidance system, listening to any way that information is coming to you, okay? It can come in many formats. So just tune into whatever you feel listening means to you and the best way that you can listen. It could be to other people. So if you know much about the Tao, they talk a lot about the Tao masters. Don't interfere. Like there's a natural flow of life and a natural rhythm. So instead of, especially when it comes to leadership, instead of like having to go in and try and fix and control people, there's like this art of just allowing. So listening can also be a part of that, listening to some inner guidance that's saying don't interfere and just allow people to work things out themselves and just hold space for them. And the third one is aligning to the natural rhythm. Okay, so when you listen to your inner guidance system, when you listen to nature, when you listen to the energy behind what's actually going on, okay, so that could be tuning in, listening, then you're aligning yourself to a natural rhythm. You're not trying to force, you're not trying to push. So less of the masculine qualities there, which obviously are important in certain times. So right now we're just talking about beginning with the feminine, and then when we know that we're meant to act and that we're meant to take action, then we engage the masculine. But initially, and in this topic, we're talking about the feminine, quality of grace. So I want to give you an example of listening and aligning to the natural rhythm. So what I've been doing lately, what I was guided to do, was to tune into nature. So when I meditate, for a couple of years, I always meditated outside, but that's not always possible based on where you live, right? It could be raining or cold. But I always go for a dog walk. So either way, in the morning, I tune into nature and I feel nature and I become nature. So if it's windy, I can feel the wind. If it's still, I can feel the stillness. So whatever nature is in that day, I know that that's how I meant to act to match it, if that makes sense. So during the beginning of the pandemic, nature was very quiet and still and slow and spacious. And I noticed it a few weeks ago, nature started to still have that radiance and that stillness and that groundedness, which is always there, even if it's windy or it's chaotic, that stillness is always at the core. But I've noticed that nature has a bit more energy going on right now, which means that there's more room for us to actually take action. Whereas before there was a lot of spaciousness, don't act, just hold space, just allow, you know, the like flowering of a rose, that kind of energy. But now it feels like there's a bit more action that can be taken, that the masculine's getting re-engaged a little bit now. So I find personally that when I create the spaciousness and listen to nature, listen to my high guidance system, then I'll know what the natural rhythm is. And then I can engage the masculine of acting and actually choose to align to that natural rhythm. So we're not pushing our own agenda. We're not saying, okay, well, I feel that I need to be productive and busy and I'm going to get on 10 phone calls and do this and do that. We're not doing that. We're tuning in and we're feeling into what the natural rhythm is. And then if we're meant to have a day of rest, we rest. I got food poisoning a few days ago, just minor food poisoning, because I had so many things that I was meant to do that day that my head planned, but obviously that wasn't what was the natural rhythm. So I got sick, so I had to rest. So things like that happen to us, you know, we get forced if that's our commitment to be visionaries and leaders. I really feel that it's also, in order to achieve that, we really need to be tuning in. And so that's how my experience and the download that I received of how we can lead with grace during these uncertain times.